What is shaking, guys? Shane here, ShanesRetroGames, and today I'm going to take you through backlighting and biverting a original DMG Game Boy. I have one here that somebody requested I fix up for them. There's honestly nothing to fix. You can see here, speaker works. We have all of our lines, so this should be a nice simple put in the backlight, bivert it, and then we're also going to put it in a new case. So let's get to it. Alright, first things first, gotta get this guy out of its shell. So you need to remove 6 screws, these 4 and the 2 inside of the battery compartment. Depending on how old your Game Boy is, it's either going to be tri-wing or Phillips head. The newer ones have tri-wing. The older ones have Phillips. Alright, when you open it up, there is a ribbon cable inside there connecting them. Just very carefully slide it back. So there's your front, there's your back. I'm going to focus on the front for right now. Alright. So inside here we have 10 screws that we need to remove because Nintendo has a love affair with screws. There you go. Now if it doesn't come out quite that easy, it's because there is an adhesive ring around the screen here. So what you would want to do is just very gently wiggle it, or if the screen protector is off, you can gently push the screen through. But we're not using this case, so we can just throw this to the side. We will be using these pads though. Now you can see here, somebody has been in here before and fixed those lines. They didn't put that plastic or rubber gasket there, so we will be putting that back just because that added pressure makes sure that those lines don't come back. But anyway, so now you got these 2 little screws here that we got to remove. If I can find my tiny little screwdriver. Alright, to lift up the screen, you never want to lift by this. We're going to use preferably something plastic, soft. Pull that up. Now inside here, there's 2 little bits of foam. I like to very carefully put the spudger between the foam and the ribbon cable and just push down. And there you have the inside. The reason I do it that way instead of just pulling it up is because I have had only once where this ripped the ribbon cable, so I like to prevent that from happening. So we can get rid of these 2 guys. get out of here. Alright, so when you're doing this, you want to be very, very careful that you do not rip anything here or these pins here. It will be a bitch trying to fix that. You also want to be very, very careful with this ribbon right here. It is very delicate. The one in the front and even this green bit here is very durable, but this white part is very, very delicate, very fragile. So you don't want to hold the screen like this. Any pressure you should put will be here. Alright, so now that we have this opened up, you're going to take your X-Acto knife or just something very, very sharp, and you're going to remove both the reflector and the polarizer. It's very important you get both because otherwise this just becomes doubly hard. The way I like to do it is I like to start in this back corner and pull away from the ribbon. Again, you want to be very, very careful that you don't damage this ribbon here. You just need a small little corner. So I like to do that, fold it up, be able to get underneath it. Alright, almost to the end there. There you go. So there you go. Back reflector is out. Now while you're working on it, you may want to keep this just so that you can see if anything has been damaged. There's a little bit of residue from the sticker on that reflector there. You can see there on the edge. Honestly, the best way to go about getting rid of that, just use your finger. Alright. She's ready for the backlight. Okay, soldering iron is hot and tinned up. So here is our backlight and the polarizer film. Put the film off to the side for right now. What we're going to be doing is soldering the wires to these 2 points. Alright. So that's all ready. Let's prep the... Alright, so when you soldered the light to the board, you're going to be doing it to these 2 points right above this capacitor. So what we want to do is we want to add just a little bit of extra solder to those. Got our extra solder there. Solder there. Peel off the film. And throw it right here. Again. So blue's going to go on the right, red's going to go on the left. So I like to test every point during the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to slide this guy back in here. Very, very gentle-like. Plug her in. Let's just make sure it works. Beautiful. So there is a coating. There's a plastic film on both sides. I'll peel that off. Like I said, you want to be careful not to get fingerprints all over it. So there's a slight curve. You want the curve facing up. Now this is completely optional, and I'm sure you've seen me do this in some of my other videos, but what I like to do is just give a fine dusting. I like to give a fine dusting of just some regular baby powder. I will hit that with the brush here. The reason for this is that sometimes the film can stick to the back of the LCD and it makes it look wet and it doesn't have as clear of a picture. So with this, it just keeps it from sticking and just keeps it looking better longer. So I'm just dusting that off. I'm just going to hit this with some compressed air. So you can see it looks kind of foggy now, but when the light is on you will not notice that. So what we're going to do is pop this guy in here. Now since we are biverting it, if you do not plan on biverting, you're going to put it in so it looks yellow. But since we are biverting, we're going to put it in so that it looks blue. And again, we're just going to test this out right now. That's what we want it to look like there. Inverted pixels there. Everything's looking good. Looks like there might be a little bit of schmutz inside. I'll take care of that. But then we can move on to adding the Bivert chip. Alright. So for doing this, I do like to keep the back in this board just so it's not wobbling around. Our Bivert chip will be going right here. There are a couple of pins that we need to disconnect. 2 pins right here. You need to lift them up so that the Bivert chip can slide underneath. We're going to clean up some of these solder points here to make it nice and flush. Alright, so we have to lift up these 2 pins here. I believe it's pin 5 and 6, something like that. I don't even count them anymore, I just know what to do. So how I like to do this is I like to use my soldering iron and a small pick. I will wedge the pick under there, put some pressure, and then put heat on it. So let's get some flux on here, heat them up, and lift those pins. Might be a little bit hard to see, but you got those 2 pins lifted there. You just want to make sure that the traces underneath are not connected to the pins as they're lifted up. You want them to still be connected to the board. So let's get the Bivert chip ready. that there is your Bivert chip. What we need to do is we need to prep these 3 pads here with some solder. Alright, so you want to make sure that those pins are lined up with those solder pads, and that those solder pads underneath are lined up with those holes. How I like to go about this first is get these pins sort of connected and then fill those up. Let's do that. Alright, there you go. So as you saw, I filled up these 3 holes, and then what I like to do is apply a little bit of pressure to the chip and then just push the tip down into the holes to make sure that there is a good connection between the filled solder and the solder pad below. And then I also just soldered these 2 pins to their pads as well. You just want to make sure that these little guys that you do not have any bridges in there. So next we're going to wire up this ground pad to this little solder pad here. So we're going to add a little extra solder and connect the wire here. There you go, she's all wired up. You do want to make sure that the wire is not getting in the way of that screw post. And what I like to do is there's a little row of solder points that the wire just sits beautifully between. You can cover this with some like electrical tape or something like that, but I have not found it to be necessary, so I just leave it like so. Alright, let's test that backlight again. Perfect. Nice and biverted, nice and clean. So now, let's get her in our new house. Alright guys, there you have it. Came out really well. Really digging this color scheme. Got the purple power button. Side cover there. Really digging it. It's not quite done. Got a few more things to do to it, but for today that was taking you guys through the backlight and the bivert. Hopefully it was somewhat informative and helpful. If you like this video, do me a favor and give it a like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff, and I will see you next time.
Thank you.